our 206th weekly webcast. Now, before I take your questions, I want to discuss 10 tips on how to give a life-changing presentation. Number 1, start with an inspiring quote or a quote relevant to your topic. For example, Mark Twain once said, the 2 most important days in your life are number 1, the day you're born, and number 2, the day you find out why. So it's important to start with a great quote just to inspire the audience. You can also end your speech with an inspiring quote. And the reason this is crucial is because the content of your speech is slightly less important than the delivery. Because as Maya Angelou once said, people might not remember what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. Number 2, believe in yourself. Be yourself, believe in yourself, and don't be robotic, okay? Your friends and family love you for being you, and if you stumble, the audience will actually love you more because you're being you. And when somebody messes up in a presentation, you like them a little bit more, you know what I mean? So don't worry if you miss a bullet point or if you forget to cover a certain topic because nobody's going to know anyway. And understand that you never look as nervous as you feel. And right before the speech starts and right before an interview, please tell yourself, I don't care what people think of me. And I'm just going to have fun with this. So you got to tell yourself that. And before your speech, you got to tell yourself that I know my content better than anybody else in the audience because I prepared this myself. And if you feel nervous, just tell yourself that God already knows what's going to happen, which should put you at ease and fill your heart with love and peace. Be yourself because everybody else is taken. And stop caring what people think about you in general in life, especially when you interview and when you give presentations and when you go on dates too, of course. And if you do that, you will reach your full potential in life. Now, I'm the farthest thing there is from an artist, but this is my most prized painting that I made. Yes, it's awful, I know. But this chart here, I'll go through this quickly. But here on the x-axis here, can't get that blue light out of the way. On the x-axis here, you've got your age. And right here, you've got give a damn, okay? And when you're younger, you're down here. You don't give a damn what people think of you. You have meltdowns in restaurants, whatever. Then over here, when you're older, like me, you also don't give a damn. The problem is when you're in your 20s, 30s, and even 40s for me, you're up here and you care what people think. And you got to get rid of that triangle of despair, okay? And live your life at this level forever, starting today, especially when you present. And the best entrepreneurs in the world, people like Mark Benioff, Elon Musk, etc., Oprah Winfrey, they don't give a damn what people think of them. And that's why they're successful. Because they don't waste all that time thinking, oh my God, did I sound smart there? Are people judging me? Well, the reality is nobody's judging you. People have their own problems. They're thinking about themselves anyway. So just be yourself, and I promise you everything else will work out, and you'll enjoy that presentation. Number 3 of 10, use transition words as your crutch. Okay, and I've got a prop here, which is a crutch, okay, because I don't want you to forget this, because I care. Okay, so if you forget what to say next, you can use a crutch phrase while you look at your slides for the next bullet points. And crutch phrases are in terms of, moving on to, or the bottom line is. And you can also use frameworks as a crutch during the Q&A session. For example, you can use the SWOT framework, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So if you're given a case study question or a tough question, you can buy time by saying this. In terms of the strengths of X, the strengths are blah, blah, blah. Moving on to, another transition or crutch word. Moving on to the weaknesses, which are blah, blah, blah. In terms of the opportunities, blah, blah, blah. And lastly, the threats are blah, blah, blah. And the bottom line is use crutches and strength words. All right. Number 4. Speeches are gold for networking. And we all know that your network is your net worth. And on my website, which is harounmba.com, you can download a free networking book I've created for you. It's 200 pages plus a couple hours of links to YouTube videos. It's a free download. I promise you it'll help you. So speech is our goal for networking, and we know your network is your net worth. So at the end of your speech, thank everyone in attendance, and then mention how to get in contact with you, which we refer to as a CTA or a call to action. And you can put your email or your LinkedIn address on the final slide if you have slides. Moving on to number 5. If you're presenting using Zoom, please take the time to set up the perfect audio, video, lighting, and your appearance, because a great Zoom setup can do for your career what an incredible Italian suit can do for your career. Now, in my MBA degree program, I explain this and public speaking in much more detail. And smile more often too. And if you want, what you can do is you can draw a smiley face on a Post-it note and put it right beside your camera. This is simple, but it works. And as Don Draper says, make it simple but significant. And if you use a teleprompter during a presentation, like I am right now, and I'm using pedals to go back and forth between the slides here, and I can show that to you if you want me to during the Q&A. But if you're using a teleprompter during the presentation, like I am, and the teleprompter is not working properly, don't react like Bob O'Reilly did per this very short video here.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. 5, 4, 3. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
I think I watched that like 10 times last night on TikTok. I need help, I think. I found that funny. All right, moving on, number 6. If it's a long presentation, break it up with videos or an image. For example, years ago, I gave a presentation on security software at a venture capital event, and I showed this slide right here. It says, Dad says you're spying on us online. He's not your dad. Okay. Number 7. Stay neutral when it comes to talking about politics, because half the audience will like you and the other half will not. Oh, okay. Guess I shouldn't include that video or image there. Well, I thought that was funny, but I'm just being me. Number 8, ocho. Use staggering statistics to get your point across. For example, if you're presenting on personal finance, you can say, did you know that 78% of athletes that played in the NFL are broke 2 years after they retire? It's true. Number 9 of 10, we're almost done here. If you use slides, never have more than 3 bullet points on a single slide. And Steve Jobs used to talk about the rule of thirds. And inspiring pictures have 3 layers, like the beach, the ocean, and the sky. 3 bullet points max. The bottom line is less is more. Lastly, number 10. Use props. Now, when you were younger, you remember to this day what your friends brought to school for show and tell, but you don't remember what the teacher said. And props get your point across, and they really differentiate you too, and it makes it fun. So what you can do is you can buy props on eBay and then sell them back on eBay after your presentation. For example, I gave a presentation to my MBA students on how inventory can destroy a company. And I mentioned that the video game industry went bankrupt in the early 1980s because Atari made way too many of these games here, the E.T. game. And this is the worst video game ever, to the extent that they actually had to bury hundreds of thousands of these cartridges in the desert. So in closing, one perfect presentation by you can change your life. So please think differently when you present and just be you, because as Dr. Seuss said, those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. And so have fun. And instead of giving a presentation, give an experience, okay? And as Seth Godin said, you already have everything you need to build something far bigger than yourself. Thank you. All right. Let me take your questions now. Okay. And this morning we had the GDP number come out for the United States. Looks like the gross domestic product, which is revenue for the country, went up 2.6% year over year. It's astonishing how strong the U.S. economy is, despite the fact that mortgage rates are at 20-year highs now, above 7%, and interest rates are rising as well. It's astonishing. And I think one of the reasons why the U.S. economy is strong is, despite rising interest rates, is because we have this new concept post-COVID of YOLO, right? Which means you only live once. And so people are not saving as much. They're spending, they're kind of living their lives, they're traveling, etc. And it's really frustrating for the Federal Reserve of the United States because they want to see unemployment spike to mid to high single digits. And they want inflation to come down as well. So it really, really amazes me how resilient the economy is right now. And the United States economy is the biggest economy in the world. But what people don't realize is that 2/3 of the United States economy is consumer spending. And consumers are still spending like crazy, despite the fact that companies like Facebook, Google, etc., have had awful earnings. And I can talk about all earnings reports if you want to as well. This is your time. Please ask me questions about business, personal growth, anything you want to. I'm here to humbly help you. Okay. All right. Let me move on to my first question. Do you guys find this funny? I thought this was hysterical. Yeah. Okay. All right. So first question I've got here is from Kevin, who's one of my MBA students. Kevin wrote, "Good morning from Lakeland, Florida. Great to see you as always." Manas from India wrote, "Good morning, my dear mentor. Call me Chris, please. Hope all is well. Just one question today for you. Meta's stock is going down and down because the metaverse people are punishing Zuckerberg with dumping Meta. What's the next step?" Yeah. So Meta's stock is also going down because advertising spending is down materially. And also because Apple, a little while ago, they released an update that blocks a lot of cookies and your ability to track consumers when you're trying to advertise. And so there's a lot of other platforms as well that Meta is really competing with right now, including TikTok. And I showed you a funny TikTok. I thought it was funny. A funny TikTok video earlier today. And so what Facebook's algorithm is trying to do is they're trying to favor video shorts. And the same thing with YouTube's algorithm and Instagram as well. You know, TikTok is eating Facebook's lunch. And so Facebook's year-over-year revenue continues to decline. That's 2 quarters in a row. 2 data points make a trend. Now, in terms of their Meta strategy, they spent $5 billion last year on Meta R&D. This year, they spent $10 billion, or they will be by the end of the year. And the issue is that the install base for these, this is the last generation of Oculus, is only like 15 million units. And you can't create a brand new platform on the internet with only 15 million units, right? We all know that you want to own the road or the platform. Those are the best investments. Now, the new Oculus that just came out is $1,500 as well, which, you know, investors are looking at and they're like, dude, that's not a consumer product. That's too expensive. And so what's happening is all of the big Meta players, Microsoft with HoloLens, you've got Facebook with the new Oculus, and you've also got Magic Leap through Google's subsidiary. They're all pricing their products way too high, way too high. So it's not a consumer-based product yet. Now, if you do a search on Apple patents, and this is all publicly disclosed, and this is a way to understand what companies are going to release product-wise soon. But if you do a search on Apple patents, you'll see that they're going to release their own version of this. It's going to be a much smaller form factor, probably coming in January, and then a follow-up, according to people familiar with the matter, in 2024. And I think if anybody's going to nail this, it's going to be Apple. Now, the user experience when you're using these devices, it's not that great. I mean, you get dizzy after half an hour. So this is just a lot of hype for now. You get dizzy after half an hour. In fact, the United States Army, they signed a $22 billion contract with Facebook to get these devices here just for practicing warfare, etc. And over 80% of the people in the United States Army that put these on got very, very sick, motion sickness. So we have to solve that issue. Also, it's not realistic enough when you look through these things. Everything looks perfect except for the most important thing, which is faces. And you'll notice that when you play FIFA or MLB The Show or any video game online, it doesn't matter if you have a PS5 or the new Xbox. The faces are not perfect yet. So we've got a long way to go before this becomes mainstream. Now, in hindsight, should Zuckerberg have renamed the company Meta? Yes, I think so. Because he knows it's just a matter of time until a company is broken up into separate, independent companies. Because Facebook is so powerful, man, you can't avoid them, that every person on this planet uses at least one Facebook app multiple times every month. And of course, the bulk of that now is WhatsApp. So they're going to be broken up. And Google's going to be broken up too. They know that. That's why they rebranded themselves. One of the reasons they rebranded themselves Alphabet years ago. Because they own the two biggest search engines in the world. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Manostro, thanks for everything. See you next week and forever and ever. I'm going to watch the replay next week and push the goalpost oot. And thank you for those emojis. Namaste. God bless you and all that great stuff. Thank you. Moving on to Yassine, who wrote, are you buying Facebook stock right now? Is it oversold? I am not at this point. I still think that a lot of tech stocks are really overvalued. And I think we're going to see more pain in the economy in the next 6 to 12 months. I think the United States government has to force the United States economy into recession. Yeah. But I am still buying. I'm buying I-bonds. You can go to treasurydirect.gov to learn more if you're based in the United States. You could invest $10,000. It's the best investment you can get out there. And I can talk about that in more details if you want to. Now, my go-to investment when I'm not sure what to buy, which is kind of like now, is I like to buy the VOO, ticker VOO, which is the S&P 500 index fund, which has fees that are very, very low. I've talked about this in previous webcasts. I can talk about it today if you want me to as well. Yeah. And the United States government, what they did last week was they increased the minimum amount or the maximum amount you can invest in your retirement savings program by more than 10% starting in 2023. So starting in 2023, you'll be able to put in $22,500 every year into your 401k retirement account. And they did this because inflation is very, very high as well. Okay. All right, next up, William Taylor wrote, good afternoon from Cape Town, South Africa. It's a pleasure to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Rita from Melbourne wrote, good day, Chris and fellow students from Melbourne. Great to see you. We've got Peter who wrote, good afternoon, Chris from Poland. Great to see you. Good to see you. Mutaz wrote, hello, Mr. Haroun. Great to see you. Call me Chris, please. Patricia from the great state of New Jersey. Wonderful to see you. Patricia's in my Platinum MBA program, as are many people I've just talked about here. Good morning. Good to see you. Moving on to Rita, who wrote, Mark Zuckerberg should sack himself to save his company. The billionaire is prepared to let tens of billions of dollars on the metaverse vision. Yeah, I think what happens ultimately is when a founder leaves a company, a lot of investors tend to run for the exit. And the reason is because the founder usually has the chutzpah or the guts to think longer term and make long-term bets. Whereas new CEOs that were promoted that didn't start the company, they're kind of slaves to the board to the extent that they're very short-term focused on earnings. Yeah, and so I never invest in a company when the founder or all the founders have left the company. And I make no exception for that either. And for more details on that, I wrote a guest piece when I worked in venture capital. I wrote a guest editorial on venturebeat.com. You can do a search for that. The title was of that article, when the founders leave, investors should run for the exit. Okay. And then Rita wrote, perhaps he should do away with Meta's business. Yeah. I think they're going to figure it out eventually, but I think it's going to take a lot longer than we think. And there's a very famous saying in Silicon Valley that I heard Mark Benioff, the founder of Salesforce, say once, which is, we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, but we massively underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. Yeah, it's always wise to be long-term focused. As Warren Buffett said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. Okay. Next question I've got here is from Craig. Craig, good to see you. You wrote, do you use long and shorts or long-only investment strategy or a combination of both depending on the market conditions? I like to be hedged. And I worked at a hedge fund years ago. I managed over $1 billion at one point, and I ran what's called market neutral. And what that means is basically you're not allowed to be more than 15% long or 15% short the market. So I've kind of been trained that way to think of risk management and hedging. So if I'm long, meaning I own too many stocks in a certain sector that are volatile, I'll short a stock or an ETF in that sector. For example, if I'm long, Intel, Nvidia, and a bunch of other higher growth than Intel semi stocks, then I might be short the SMH or an ETF index that represents some of the more volatile stocks in an index. Yeah. Okay. And I teach a lot more about that in my MBA degree program as well. And for those of you in the MBA degree program, go to FA44 for more details. That's Finance and Accounting Semester 4, class number 4, where I have a 30-hour elective where I talk about shorting, options, and much more. Yeah. Okay, next up we got Alex P. Alex, how are you? And Alex, thank you so much for leaving that comment on my video where I talked about this in one of my vlogs. And you said, Chris, I'm glad you're not an artist. And that made me laugh. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so Alex wrote here, Chris, will inflation in Latin America, countries such as Argentina, have an effect on the United States? A little bit, only if institutional investors have exposure to debt markets in Argentina. So in the early 1990s, there were some big American companies that were adversely impacted by the Latin American debt crisis when Argentina and other South American countries defaulted on their debt. But I don't think it's going to have a material impact, on the overall economy. Okay, next up, Dan wrote, I saw an ad on Facebook's Workspaces earlier, and it made me doubt the value of certain metaverse interactions overall. I don't see the uncanny valley version of people or their avatars. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I've been trying to make metaverse content for my MBA program, and I'll be adding it eventually once I figure out how to make it fun and intuitive. And if you want, you can go to mbametaverse.com. And on, I think it was week number 174 earlier this year, I did one of these weeklies from the metaverse, and a lot of my students joined me. The technology is not there yet. Yeah, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. And I think what's ultimately going to happen is VR is not going to be, the big deal. The big deal is going to be AR. Okay, and so I can think of many applications, like having a second monitor for AR. So I wear these AR glasses, and I can see my computer and you and everybody. And then every now and then, if I want, I can look up here, kind of like Google Glass had years ago. I can look up here to see my second monitor. And that will also help if I'm riding my e-bike. On my e-bikes, I hate turning my neck to look around. I have a little monitor, it's a cheap monitor with a camera pointing out back. It would be wonderful if I had in my Ray-Ban glasses, up in the corner, a little screen. And so I think the first killer app, so to speak, is going to be second screens with AR. And I think Apple's going to nail that before anybody does, because that way you don't get motion sickness if you just look every now and then at that second screen. Yeah. Okay. All right. And if you guys have questions, please let me know as well. Type them now if you want. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to open up Zoom. And if you guys want, you can join Zoom as well. Now to join Zoom, and I'll show you guys exactly how to do this. Give me 1 second. And if anybody has questions about presentations as well, per my opening comments today, I'm here to humbly help there if we want to make that the theme of this week. Now, in order to join Zoom, what you do is you go to harounmba.com/all lowercase Zoom. Okay. And then you click this link right here. And so what I'll do is I'll open up Zoom right now and wait for you guys to join. If you guys want to join, ask questions that way as well. So let me tee this up here. Give me a second. Launch meeting. Okay, great. And I'll come back there in a minute to check if anybody wants to also go on Zoom. All right. Next up, Asif wrote, and I went to McGill, this guy named Asif Sachu. Good guy. Yeah, he's now a billionaire in Hollywood. Yeah. You wrote, is it good to invest in blockchain shipping industry applications, DeFi and dApps, etc.? Yeah. As long as you do the due diligence yourself. Now, in my MBA program, what I do is I teach you how to analyze any company like an investment banker does. Now, before you do an IPO, what happens, and before you invest in an IPO, and this is Facebook or Meta's IPO document, before you invest in an IPO or anything really, I want you to read the investment offering memorandum. Okay, and every investment should have one. If you can't find an investment offering memorandum, don't ever invest. And so in 2012, when Facebook went public, they issued this S1 document, which you can download at sec.gov. And the great thing about this is lawyers and investment bankers created this so that every single risk is listed. There's a lot of numbers as well. Just look at historical financial statements. And you can also learn about the management team and the business model, et cetera, in much more detail. So before you invest in a blockchain company or a crypto company or any investment that's speculative like those, I want you to please read this. And if you can't find it, and you probably won't be able to find it, what you can do is you can create something like this. And in my MBA degree program, what I've done is I've created all the templates and tools or arrows in your quiver, so to speak, so that you can analyze any type of investment, including a blockchain investment or a cryptocurrency investment, using this methodology. Please, please, please do the work first, always, because most of these investments, most cryptocurrencies and blockchain investments, and especially NFTs, are an absolute scam. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Sarthik wrote, Mark Zuckerberg is not likable. Mark Zuckerberg is not likable, but he's certainly a very smart person. Zuck is so invested in metaverse that even I think it might be something huge in the future. Yeah, I think he's on to something, but I think, again, it's going to take a lot longer than we think for this to become fruition. Yeah, to become reality. Yeah. And what happens is the best investments you can make are always platform-based. If you own the road, you can charge the cars. And so if you think about LinkedIn, it's a platform, social media platform. Same thing with YouTube. Same thing with Apple, with iOS. They charge 30% fee for every app you download. And I have an app that's coming out very, very soon on this as well. It's going to be free. I'll tell you about it in a couple of weeks. But I think platforms are the absolute best investments you can ever make. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, why is the Chinese currency so high? Yeah. I think it's manipulated, really manipulated by the Chinese government. Given the fact that the U.S. economy, the United States government has been raising interest rates more than China has. The United States dollar has outperformed the yuan, but it's certainly not as strong, the Chinese renminbi or yuan, as they call it, yuan, as it used to be. But it is heavily manipulated. Yeah. And I don't believe all the data that comes out of China either. They delayed their quarterly GDP results by a couple of weeks. And that kind of maybe signaled to the marketplace that they were, they had issues with the data, or maybe they didn't want to release the data because they wanted to, kind of advertise that the political leader there is staying on too long, meaning a third term. Yeah. But if you're in China, like if you're Beijing and you're managing that country, your biggest concern is civil unrest. And what happened in Tiananmen Square in 1989 when you had rioting was the whole world was lucky. We were fortunate that CNN, by luck, by chance, happened to have a camera crew there. And so you saw uprising with that amazing man. I don't know his name. I don't think anybody does that. Stood in front of the tank until the tank went around him. It was awesome. And so China is worried about that because back then you had CNN in Tiananmen Square, and now you have a billion CNNs because everybody has one of these things. Everybody's a journalist now. And so I think the biggest concern with China is certainly civil unrest. Yeah. And I think that, I don't want to be all conspiracy-like, but I'm going to tell it like it is, or my humble thoughts, and be transparent as always. I don't think that COVID was manufactured at all. Definitely not. But I remember in late 2019, you had a lot of protesters, freedom protesters in Hong Kong. And then what happened was the Chinese government, they knew about COVID in 2019. They could have cracked down on it sooner, but it was kind of a convenient excuse to tell people to go home and stop protesting. Yeah. And I think that really shocked Beijing, the protesters there, so much that they're starting to move more towards the left. And the whole world is unfortunately moving way too far to the left. Of course, we have Mr. Putin invading Ukraine and trying to reassemble the USSR. You have China moving more to the left. You have a lot of governments moving more to the left. In South America, if Lula wins, as he came out of jail to be president again, then every country will be more left focused. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a right-wing nut. I vote based on who the candidate is in America. I don't really support one party. I'm more of a libertarian. But as the world moves more towards the left, it does concern me from a freedom perspective. And I remember when I did my MBA program, my first year, and I launched in 2019, 2020, I had a lot of students that got one-on-one meetings in my platinum program from all over the world. And many of them would tell me that they're losing their rights. They go outdoors, past curfew, and they get beaten with sticks. And that's in multiple countries. People mention that, including India. And so it worries me that we've moved far to the left. And in Canada, we saw the truckers peacefully protesting in Ottawa for more fundamental freedoms. And I love that. And I remember my brother, even in Canada during COVID, they wouldn't let him go to his cottage. If he did, they were going to fine, himself and his kids $150 each in the car. And so it's unfortunate the world is moving too far to the left. And I think that's what's happening with China. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Next up, Digital Edwin wrote, hello all, greetings from Nairobi, Kenya. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you again. It's been a couple of weeks. Moving on to Tariq. Hey, Tariq. Tariq is in my MBA program. He's a funny guy. He calls me Crack Haroun because, most people mispronounce my last name as Haroun. So he calls me Crack Haroun, which I like. It's kind of funny. If you can't laugh at yourself, then you take life too seriously. Yeah. So Tariq wrote here, do you like Ethereum as a platform as well as Bitcoin or just Bitcoin? I own both and I have for years, and I'm never selling them until they reach a certain target price of mine, which I won't disclose. Yeah. I like them both. Yeah. But Ethereum has kind of changed from a proof of work to proof of stake model to the extent that it's more environmentally friendly, but I've stopped mining it because it's just too tricky for me. And I don't mine Bitcoin anymore either because it's too expensive here to do it in the great state of California on the left coast here, west coast here. Yeah. But I like them both as platforms. Yeah. And Bitcoin is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like a digital ledger, but Ethereum is much more. It's kind of like DocuSign, meaning contracts in the cloud. It's the platform that most cryptos go public on, meaning ICOs on the Ethereum platform, and NFTs as well. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Yassine wrote, if you own Meta stock, for example, and they split into separate companies, how does that work for an existing shareholder? Yeah, you get the shares. Right. So usually what happens is the investment bankers that work on the listing of subsidiaries, they'll give you shares. So what happens is, let's say you own one share of Meta and it splits into three companies. And the three companies are Facebook, let's say Instagram and WhatsApp. Then you will get one share of each of those. Yeah. And if it's like, if one company gets acquired by another company and it's an all cash deal, then if you own the company that got acquired, you get all cash in your account. Your shares will convert into cash. If it's a cash and stock deal, meaning the company buying the other company you own gives cash and shares, right? Meaning 0.5% or 0.5 of every share you own, you get cash, and 0.5, you get a share or two of the other company. Then what happens is in your account, that company that you own disappears. And the next day after the deal closes, 6 months after it gets approved by the regulators, et cetera, you will get cash and shares in that company that made the acquisition. Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have Zoralina, who's from France originally. She lives in Ontario and she just got married in Nova Scotia recently. She owns a crepe company and she's looking to sell it through private equity firms. She has two cats named Mimi and Mumu, and I see her every week on my silver my silver Zoom, which we do every week at 10 a.m. For silver students. Good to see you. Good morning, Chris. What do you think of NIO EV? I don't know what that is. Sorry. Okay, but if you want during the silver Zoom session today, I can do a live review on it for you and give you my humble thoughts on it. Yeah. Okay. But when it comes to EV stocks in general, make sure you really understand if these companies only exist because of government subsidies. Because when push comes to shove and the global economy slows, and it will, what happens is a lot of government subsidies are taken away. So for example, in 2007, 2008, when we were within 24 hours of bank machines not working, in Spain, they got rid of most of their solar subsidies. And so solar stocks got crushed. Yeah. So make sure these companies can stand on their own 2 feet. Yeah. And it's interesting because if there's too much government intervention, what happens is you don't have economic Darwinism to the extent that companies don't survive. And the best example of this is after World War II in Japan. What happened was, of course, the entire Japanese economy was in shambles. And so what happened was the Japanese government in the 1940s, they created these incentive programs, and they gave money to every single sector in the economy except for two. And I learned about this through Michael Porter, who's a great Harvard economist, through his book called Can Japan Compete? And of course they can. But in that book, Can Japan Compete? He realized that the two sectors of the Japanese economy that are most dominant are the two sectors that did not get a penny, the only two sectors that didn't get a penny from the Japanese government when they were rebuilding their economy back in the 1940s. And those two sectors are autos and consumer electronics. So I think if there's too much government subsidies, I don't think an industry can do extraordinarily well. So I'd be really, really careful with that. Yeah, it's kind of like, wealthy families. The first generation makes money, the second spends it, the third has none. Yeah. All right, next up we got Brody. And I'm smiling because one of my favorite characters ever is Brody from Homeland. Great show. Damian Lewis. So Brody wrote, and first time I've seen you on the call, welcome. I hope you join us again. Thanks. Brody wrote, if you've pitched to invest in a family and friends round, pre-angel, what do you look for in how you want to be involved in the capital stack of the company? Meaning the cap table. Yeah, couple things. And I say this with love in my heart because I care. If a friend or a family member asks you to invest in their company, I want you to tell yourself this. Why am I so lucky to be given this opportunity? And the harsh reality, and again, I say this with love in my heart, is because maybe nobody else will invest. So just be careful. Also, when it comes to friends and family with money, I've made friends and family a lot of money, and I've lost one friend in particular some money on a certain deal. People are skittish. You'll find out their true colors. And I promise you, it will tarnish the relationship you have with people. So just be really careful. In terms of your question, what to look for. So you got to read the investment offering memorandum. They're not going to give you something as elaborate as something an investment banker would create for Facebook, but they should give you an investing offering memorandum, okay, that was created by their lawyer. So you can read about all the risks, etc. In terms of the cap structure of the company, it all depends if you're getting preferred shares or common shares. You're probably getting preferred. You want to look at how much can you get diluted if other investors invest, etc. Yeah. And just tell yourself there's a good chance you'll never see that money again, or you won't for decades. Yeah. So just be careful for that, please. Yeah. All right. And if you have follow-up questions, please let me know. Thanks. Okay. And for those who are not familiar with angel investments, angel basically means like the seed round, like the first investor, the early investors before venture capitalists get involved. Yeah. Okay, next up, Sanjay wrote, how do you write a book for a complete beginner? And how do you sell the book more copies when compared with others? Yeah. So there's a couple things you can do. And so a lot of my students have written books using my book templates. And this does wonders for your career as well. And so what you can do, and I've got a bunch of books here, and I'm not here to market my books and stuff. But basically, I have a template for you, okay? And it's 6 inches by 9 inches. And if you know how to use Microsoft Word and a browser, it's easy to publish a book. And there's 1 page of instructions. And I'm going to show you where to download it, and I don't ask for your email or anything, okay? There's a link on my website. But before I go there, I would not write a book to make money. I write a book to help you with your career. So you're thought of as a thought leader. Okay, and the way you become a thought leader in whatever market you're passionate about is you think like a thought leader, like the Rodin sculpture, and you opine or you write a lot. And that's what I did with my first book that got released. Okay, my first book, what I did was I wrote 101 articles, and I put them on LinkedIn over 2 years. Then what I did was the articles that did best, got the most views, likes, or whatever, or comments, I made that at the beginning of my book. Okay, and if I told you that if you wrote a book, and it's free to do, by the way, if you wrote a book and you brought it to your interviews or meeting with customers, if I told you and guaranteed you that you would get that job or you get that customer, would you write a book? Of course you would. You got to ask yourself, how badly do you want that job or customer? Let me show you how to do it now, and I'll talk about sales as well and go-to-market strategy for it. So if you guys want, what you can do is you can go directly to my website to download the template for the book. And a lot of my students have done this. So go to harounmba.com/all lowercase, write book. Okay. And you click right here to download the book template. And this template, as I mentioned, is 6 inches by 9 inches. You have to download it, right, directly from here in Word format. And there's 1 page of instructions. Okay. And the first page here is just instructions. That's it. And so I tell you how to publish on Kindle, how to do paper-based version on Amazon, and also how to do Audible through acx.com, and also how to get a cover made if you want. And if you're going to spend $5 on fiverr.com and get a cover made, please use UltraCon22. She's from Bangladesh. She's made all my books. I love her. She's great. So all you do is you just fill in this template. Okay. You put in your dedication, your introduction, all the contents, yada, yada, yada. And then you right click here in Word and select repaginate. Okay. It's really, really easy to do. Again, it will do wonders for your career. Now, in terms of how to make money on a book, you can put it on Amazon. It's not going to make you a fortune. I have one book that's made some money on Amazon, but I can't pay the mortgage with it. And this book, I'll show it to you. I have to show you. It's an example. But so Forbes wrote an article on this book. They call it one of 6 books all entrepreneurs need to read right now, which helps sales. And I got a lot of companies reach out to me that wanted to publish this. Okay, including Obama, the company that did Obama's books. They reached out to me and said, we want to buy the rights and publish this. And I said, okay, let's talk about the economics. And they said, well, first of all, we're going to jack the price up to $25. And secondly, we'll only give you $1 per book. They didn't say the word only, but they'll give me only $1 per book, and they would own the rights to this forever. I didn't want to do that. So, but if you use a publisher, you might make a little bit more money on it. And I am publishing a textbook. McGraw-Hill approached me recently. Thought it'd be kind of a fun thing to do on finance and accounting textbook stuff. I'll let you know when that's published next year. Yeah. In terms of go-to-market strategy, I would give it away for free, and I would use it as a way to get customer emails. And so I'll be completely transparent. I've gotten 7 figures in business for my MBA program and other courses just because of this book. So I published this book in 2016, right? I didn't actually publish it anywhere. It's mine, but I put it on Amazon, but don't buy it because you can get it for free. And what I did is this. And you'll notice that I don't do this as much as I used to because people complained I was overdoing it. But if you go to my website, harounmba.com, and I did mention it earlier today, but if you scroll down, you can download the book right here. And you put in your email address first to get it and say you're not a robot. Yeah. And that has helped my business out tremendously. Okay. And email is still the gold standard when it comes to online commerce. Yeah. And then people, they go into my system. It's called Active Campaign, which is similar to MailChimp. And we have an e-nurturing campaign where you'll get a bunch of emails. And then if you unsubscribe, that's cool. But and then eventually you buy my MBA degree programs, etc. Yeah. And when you're doing this, when you're doing digital marketing, please be patient. Marketing is like, and advertising, it's like dating. You don't get married after one date, right? It takes a while. Before you purchase a Toyota car, you see 20 commercials, and then you might think about buying a Toyota car, if at all. So it takes time. And I think the best way to grow your brand is to publish a book. You can go to harounmba.com/write book, all lowercase, to write one of these things. And when you publish it, let me know. I'll buy it and I'll profile on the air here, as I've done many times before for my students. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Joseph wrote, Chris, can you recommend a CIIA or CFA holder to further do an MBA program? If yes, which specialization? Yeah. I'm not familiar with the CIIA, but the CFA is amazing. And the CFA is more respected in finance circles on Wall Street, et cetera, than MBAs are. And so the CFA stands for the Certified Financial Analyst designation. I did level 1 years ago. There's 3 levels. And basically what you do is every year for 3 years, you write an exam on a Saturday. And it covers everything they teach you in MBA school in finance anyway, and more so. Yeah. And it's very prestigious. It'll help you get jobs, I promise you. Yeah. But if you're going to do it, they're going to recommend, $1,000 worth of textbooks to buy. Don't do that, please. What I want you to do is I want you to do a search on Schweizer, and I can never spell it right, but Schweizer, and you can pay $30 to buy used Schweizer books that are this big. Okay, there's a bunch of them that summarize all those boring textbooks, so you can work smarter, not harder. Buy them used on eBay. Yeah. Okay. And I remember when I wrote level 1, it was early 2002. I worked at Goldman Sachs in New York City. It was right after 9/11. And then we went to New Jersey, and we were in this massive warehouse, thousands of us. And we're about to write the exam, and they said, can you all please stand up? And we all stood up. And they said, before we start, we want to read the names of the people that have CFA designations that died 9/11. And it went on forever. It was terrifying. Yeah. God bless them. Okay. All right, next up, Yassine wrote, how much should a pre-MVP startup raise? What length of time should you raise for before you need more capital? Yeah, and so for those who are not familiar with MVP stands for minimum viable product. It basically means before your product is really ready to be commercially available, have something that kind of works a little bit and put it out in the marketplace. And so in my MBA program, in the 3rd semester, I have a venture capital boot camp. And so for those of you that enrolled in my MBA, just fast forward to E3-1, that's Entrepreneurship Semester 3, Class 1. And what I do is I teach you how to write a business plan from scratch, how to raise money. And one of my students, Jim Tusif, who graduated from my Platinum MBA last year, he just raised $11.5 million for his startup. From Tim Draper, another venture capitalist, the same VCs that invested in Baidu, Tesla, SpaceX, etc. But I teach you all this stuff based on my real life practical experience, my successes and failures, as well in business. Yeah. And I don't recommend that you raise money from venture capital firms right away. Because the sales cycle is very long. Okay. I recommend that you network like crazy to meet with high net worth investors, okay, because the sales cycle is much shorter. And in the 1st semester of my MBA program, I teach you how to network on steroids. I promise you this works. I have students in my MBA program that have raised money. I have one student earlier this year in my Platinum program this year that 2 months ago, he got a job at Goldman Sachs in New York City, making 170 grand base salary. He's in the same start class with Harvard MBA students, et cetera. It works. You got to network like crazy in order to raise money. In terms of how much money do you need, it all depends. It might be something small like $100,000 to be able to create a proof of concept, so to speak, or some sort of wireframe drawing for an app or a website, whatever it might be. It all depends. Yeah. Now, I remember years ago when I worked in venture capital, we partnered on a deal with a big venture capital firm called Kleiner Perkins. And there's this guy there. When I went to Kleiner, and I went there many times, I met with this guy there named Randy Komisar. And Randy is a rock star in venture capital, and he invested in Nest. And Google bought Nest for $3 billion, and his firm made a fortune. And so I asked Randy, I said, Randy, what was it like when you first met the engineers or the founders of Nest? What did the product look like? Like, did it work? And he said, no, Chris, when I met with them, they brought in a block of wood. And for those of you not familiar with Nest, it's that thermostat company. But they brought in a block of wood, and they showed him the block of wood, and they said the product will look something like this and all that stuff. And I said, why did you invest? I mean, he made billions on it, right? His firm did. He said, because the delivery and the passion of the engineers, the founders, was off the charts. And you always invest in people first and ideas second, because ideas are commodities, but execution is not. And I'd always rather invest in an A management team with a B business model instead of investing in a B management team with an A business model. Because the business model is going to change materially, usually if it's early stage tech. And I want to know that the CEOs, if she or he, whatever, can try to really get me motivated to follow them and I don't know, believe in their mission, so to speak. Yeah. All right. And if you have more questions, please let me know. But again, in the third semester of my MBA program, we talk about that in a lot more detail. Okay, next up, Pulasthi wrote, hey, Chris, how are you? I'm always great, thanks. You wrote, I got a new job as an associate software engineer. Congratulations. Any advice my first days on a new job? Yeah, absolutely. So when you first go to university or high school, you know, in the first 2 weeks, you meet friends, and those are friends for life. And everyone's got their guard down, and it's easier to bond. The same thing when you join a new company, okay, or a new department in a company. In the first 2 weeks, you're the new kid in town. Everybody wants to help you. So set up a lot of networking meetings. Okay, tons of networking meetings with people that maybe have similar backgrounds to you. Maybe they're from the same hometown, whatever it might be. And just get to know people. Okay, search for mentors. And that will help you understand and navigate the corporate culture. Now, most importantly, I want you to get mentored also by your boss's assistant. Because he or she has probably been with that boss at different companies before. They probably moved together. And that assistant knows how the boss works and how decisions get made. And they'll be tickled pink if you ask them to mentor you as well. Another thing I'll say in the first 2 weeks in a new job, don't be too proactive. And hear me out on this. Don't be too proactive in terms of trying to impress too many people. Because in the first 2 weeks, you're not going to get fired anyway, first 2 weeks, but just kind of observe how the system works, how decisions get made. Right? Otherwise, you might pull a CLM or career limiting move, because every corporate culture is a little bit different. Yeah. And what I would do also is every couple of months, ask for feedback. You know, how am I doing? You know, how can I add more value, etc. And if you do that every 3 months, the chances of you getting let go goes down materially, and the chance of you getting promoted goes up a lot as well. Yeah. Find mentors. Yeah. Okay. And congratulations on the new gig. All right. Next up, Alex P wrote, and hold on one second here. Okay. Next up, Alex P wrote, Chris, have you ever heard of the company Micro Acquire? And what do you think of their business model? I don't know them. Sorry. I don't. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to Hashmap wrote, I love your training videos. Thank you. And I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I was talking to my kids this morning. Does this look better with this button done up or not? I was trying to decide. Look, I don't want to come across as too stuffy. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Myron, how are you? Myron wrote, hope you and yours are well. Congratulations, Myron, on launching your company. I bought a couple of your products. They arrive in 7 to 15 business days per your website. And I'm looking forward to interviewing you and talking about your business model in more detail in a couple of weeks on my weekly webcast, if you want to do that. And Myron is from Kenya. She lives in the United Kingdom. We're building a school in honor of her mother in Kenya starting next year. And we have to talk about that as well. And the profits, on your website, I saw some of the profits go to the school as well, which is awesome. Good to see you. Okay, moving on to Hui, who's also my MBA program. Hui wrote, hey, Chris, hey, man. Are there any tax incentives for starting a business or a startup? It all depends where you live. So, for example, in the previous venture capital firm I was at in San Francisco, we were on Market Street in the Tenderloin district. It's kind of a seedy, dangerous area. And because we were located there, we did not pay payroll taxes. So it all depends on what region of a country, state, etc. You're located in. Yeah. But generally speaking, you do get write-offs. Like if For example, if I were to buy this for business purposes, I could write this off. So I don't have to pay for this personally. Okay. And by writing this off, and basically what that means is my company would pay for it so that it would deduct from the amount of taxes I owe. You can do that. You can get write-offs. But don't ever try to figure it out yourself. Always get an accountant, and get an accountant that's going to handle your business and personal taxes. And even if people out there, if my viewers here think you don't have your own company, I still don't want you to do your own taxes. I want you to get an accountant to do it, because the tax laws change all the time. And doing your own taxes is kind of like doing surgery on yourself. I know that sounds harsh, but I'm trying to get a point across here. So how do you find an accountant? Well, you always want to, and there's no Yelp for accountants. There's no repository online you can find an accountant. You want to talk to your rich or successful aunt or uncle or friends or colleagues or whatever it is, and ask them if they can introduce you to their accountant. And they'll say yes, because their accountant will love them even more and do a better job with their taxes if they get more customers. Don't do it a month or two before taxes are due, though. Yeah. But the bottom line is you can write stuff off, meaning you can make your taxes lower if you put stuff on your company, so to speak. Yeah. And so when I have really good years, like in 2019, I had a great year, humbly. So what I did was I bought the most badass, computer servers and all that stuff right at the end of the year, so I could pay less in taxes that year. Yeah. But really wealthy people, what they do is they hire tax lawyers, and they pay as little in taxes as possible. Jeff Bezos in 2007 did not pay a penny in tax, and he got $4,000 back per kid, meaning per dependent. He had with his ex-wife now. Yeah. And when you run your own company too, if you don't, you classify what you think revenue should be. And of course, your accountant will bless it as well to make sure that you don't get in trouble. But a lot of billionaires, they don't pay taxes because they make all their money through stock. They own shares in the company. And if they don't sell any shares in a given year, they don't pay taxes. And it's not fair. And Warren Buffett has publicly disclosed that he pays less in taxes percent-wise than his assistant does. It's not fair. Now, the highest tax bracket in the United States is 37%. But the reality is that the 400 richest families in the United States only pay about 20% in taxes every year. Yeah, they move their money around a lot. It's not fair, but it is what it is, yeah. My teeth are getting whiter now because my dentist said you use a straw. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, I have got here. Hold on a second. And if I miss anybody, just paste it again. And by the way, you can't put in hyperlinks here. They strip them out for some reason. Yassine wrote, do you think Microsoft's acquisition of Activision will go through? I do. And it's interesting because the second that Microsoft bought Activision, or announced it in January this year, Sony went out and purchased a Bungie, which is the company that makes Halo, because they knew the antitrust wouldn't block that smaller deal. Yeah. Okay. And the only reason I think the government would block Activision is if Microsoft had 90% share of the video game market, which they don't. Yeah. But if they try to do a deal for EA next, then I think DOJ will Heisman or stop the deal. Yeah. And big tech companies have not been broken up by the government, and they should be. And I think one of the reasons why these big tech companies have not been broken up yet is for national security reasons. And I can go into more detail on that if you want me to. But I think what's going to happen instead of breaking up these companies right now is the United States government, the Department of Justice, they're going to block a lot of smaller deals. Yeah. Like they've done with little tuck-in acquisitions with Facebook recently. Yeah. Okay. And then Myron wrote, Chris, thanks so much for all the help and mentoring that you give us all. I appreciate it. Thank you. No, thank you so much. It's always good to see you. Yeah. Okay. And your website design's amazing, by the way. Yeah. And if you want me to show everyone your website right now, just type it in right here, but don't, you have to spell it out. So instead of .com, do .com. I'm happy to show everybody. Oh my gosh, Phil Germany. Dude, it has been ages. Phil, I hope you're doing well, man. You wrote, hey, Chris, long time no talk. Hope you're doing awesome. And you were my first student ever publish a book using my template years ago. And I remember that book was called Super Student. and it was about chess. Very prophetic that it was called Super Student, because you are my super student. It's great to see you. Right, and you're at Raytheon in Cleveland, right? Yeah, it's good to see you, man. Great to see you. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Andras wrote, "Hi, Prof. Hey, why had you been unhappy working on Wall Street? And if you could, would you decide differently? In addition, the Mario business video was superb. Will you make similar ones? All the best from Hungary." No, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And so for those who are not familiar with the Mario video, I made a video where I taught, it's part of the MBA program too, where I taught business strategy on Nintendo. We did a case study, and I designed a bunch of levels in Super Mario Maker 2 with my kids. Well, actually, it was mostly me. Yeah. In terms of why was I unhappy? Well, the problem on Wall Street is that, everybody is depressed every year. The cancer of Western society on Wall Street, everyone's depressed every year at bonus season. And I remember every bonus season, everyone was depressed, myself included, because we always compared ourselves to those that make more, which is ridiculous, really. No one's happy. The depression is rampant on Wall Street. And the only time you should look in your neighbor's bowl is to see if they have at least as much as you do, not to see if you have more than that. And I read this book by the Dalai Lama that you should all read, called The Art of Happiness. And in the book, the Dalai Lama said the problem with Western society is we sacrifice our health our entire lives in order to make money. And at the end of our lives, we sacrifice all of our money in order to maintain our health. And then we look back and we realized we never really lived to begin with. Yeah. And so I think it's important to change your perception. Everybody change our perceptions on money as well. We all need it. I get it. But don't make it your master. And there's a good reason why that's one of the 10 rules, which is the basis for many amazing religions. Yeah. Okay. But I will say the people at Goldman were great. I love working with them. Yeah. But after working there, I understand why so many successful politicians come out of Goldman Sachs. Okay. All right. Now you know why I don't have any sponsors, and I won't take any sponsors, because I want to be true and pure to all of you only. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Sanjay wrote, "I always wanted to write at least one murder mystery novel. Make it happen. Do it, man. And you can use my template as well for it if you want. Go to harounmba.com/writebook. Yeah. You got to be persistent, though. Like if you look at Agatha Christie, and if you look also at Agatha Christie and J.K. Rowling and C.S. Lewis, they all got rejected like 30 times each by publishers. You just got to have the guts to stick it out, man. And just understand, as Mark Cuban said, you only have to rewrite in business one time. So every time you fail, see it as a badge of honor. And don't give a damn what anybody thinks of you as well. And remember this chart always, please. Don't give a damn what anybody thinks. Live at this level. You only have to be right one time. Yeah. But J.K. Rowling, I mean, it was brutal for her. I felt bad for her because she was a single mother. There's no such thing as a deadbeat mother. And she was an assistant. She hated her job and she got rejected a gazillion times. Yeah. But just keep at it. And behind the scenes with all these successful people, you don't see their struggles. You don't see how many times they failed. Yeah. Okay, moving on to Sarthak, who wrote, any tips for success for a 19-year-old who wants to drop out of college and pursue blockchain development? Yeah. Oof. Okay. Before you do that, please write a thorough business plan on whatever blockchain company it is you want to create. Okay. And failing to plan is plan to fail. Write a thorough business plan first. And I have tools to help you with that as well. Yeah. And make sure that, like, before you pursue any job, ask yourself before, how do I pursue it? Ask yourself, why? Why do I want this? What is the reason that you want to, drop out and do blockchain development? Is it because you're frustrated in school? If so, maybe you can switch to a different major. If there's other reasons, please let me know. And you can always go to the admissions or administration department at the school you're at and ask them if you can take a leave of absence, right? And tell them, I want to take 6 months off, right? And that way you leave that window open to come back if blockchain is not the flavor du jour in 6 months. Yeah. Or if you're not happy with your startup or whatever it is. Yeah. And then you wrote, I want to move to the United States and join a community college instead of doing college in my country. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. And for people, a lot of people will ask me, I want to move to country X. How do I do it? So the best way to do it, and I'll just use an example of the United States because that's where I'm located right now. But what you can do is, let's say you're in Canada, where I'm from. And let's say that you want to live in the United States. Well, what I could do is I could work at an American company in Canada, like Nike, for example, do extraordinarily well for 5 or 10 years. And once you get to a certain level, they're going to try to promote you. And in order to get promoted, they want to relocate you to the mothership, meaning the headquarters of Nike in the United States. And these big firms with deep pockets have an army of lawyers that can make it happen. So if you're very long-term focused and you want to move to another country, then work for a company in your country where the headquarters are in another country. Yeah. Okay. Phil Germany wrote, and by the way, if there's anybody from Germany on this call today, thank you for Hans Zimmer. Okay. I know Phil's from Cleveland. Phil wrote, I've been out of the loop since last October when I got coronavirus. I'm so sorry to hear that. Still dealing with the long haul, but I'm much better now. Good to hear. Good to hear. And I got COVID really bad this summer, as many of you know. I should not have done my weekly webcast. I did not miss a single lecture of class for my MBA students, which was dumb on my part. And I got the COVID booster actually last Saturday. Yeah, and the side effects were only for a day or two, but I hope we feel a lot better, man. Yeah. It's good to see you. Moving on to, and if anybody wants to join Zoom, just go to harounmba.com/Zoom. I got a couple of people in the waiting room right now. So again, you go to, give me 1 second. So go here to, whoops, harounmba.com/Zoom. Okay. And then you click this link here to join me as well. So harounmba.com/Zoom. Okay. All right. Next up, Andras wrote, what do you think about cannabis being more and more legal for medical and recreational use? Germany, many states in the US, etc. Do you personally like cannabis? And if not, why? And would you invest? Yeah. Oof. I think for medical reasons, I think it should be legal. But I'll just talk about my own personal experiences. And yes, I inhaled. I don't like it. I actually hate it. It's funny. I laugh and stuff I did with my friends in college years ago. But I hate it because it makes me lazy. And I hate anything that takes away my motivation. Now, if it doesn't make you lazy and it doesn't, take away your motivation, and for medicinal purposes, I say go for it. Otherwise, I'm not a big fan. Yeah. And would you invest in it? I have family. My dad invested in startups in that area, did really well. I can't do it. I just can't. It's just not something I want to do. Yeah. That's just me, though. Yeah. But I think it should be legal for medicinal purposes. Yeah. Because then what's next? Other drugs? Yeah. But I do believe that the United States legal system, is a little bit too rigid when it comes to arresting people. Like in the past year, 500,000 people in the United States have been arrested for selling dope, and a lot of them put in jail. It's not really fair. Yeah. All right. Cool. I've got it. Okay. Keep joining Zoom, guys. I got a bunch of guys waiting there. And then when I open up Zoom, put your hand up as well to ask questions. Again, go to harounmba.com/Zoom, all lowercase. Thanks. Okay. Next up, Sanjay wrote, what's with the CFA? I've heard a lot of people hype it up. Is it really easy to get a job at the CFA just with level 1 or the whole charter? Also, is it true that CFA holders get paid more than others? Yeah. So yeah, don't just do level 1. If you're going to do it, go all out. Do level 1, 2, and 3, so you can be a CFA charter holder. It takes you at least 3 years to do. It can really help you with your career. In terms of why do people make more money with it, I guess there's a bias towards a lot of Wall Street and Bay Street firms in Canada, I know for a fact, tend to love hiring people with CFAs. Yeah, hence the bias with the salary. Yeah. But I do believe that, like, before you get like an advanced degree, like if you want to change careers, I wouldn't go to school for it. I would set up 100 informational meetings by networking, and I teach you how to do that in my MBA program. And if after 100 informational meetings, if you don't get the job of your dream, then consider getting a traditional MBA or doing a CFA or spending money on some other traditional university. Yeah. But again, 100. Why 100? Well, think about 100 meetings. Like if I told you, like to get an MBA from a traditional school, it's $100,000, right? Plus your lost career opportunities for 2 years of being outside of the workforce. If I told you that if you set up 100 meetings, informational meetings, using the stuff I teach in my MBA program, if you did 100 informational meetings, you would get the job of your dreams. Would you do it? Of course you would. Well, think about 100 meetings saving you $1,000 each. It's a different way to think, I know. So 1,000 times 100 is $100,000. And so before considering going to a traditional university and spending a fortune, set up 100 informational meetings first. Your network is your net worth. Relationships are more important than product knowledge. And I promise you that you can change careers if you network like crazy. You know, it's worked for tons of my MBA students in my platinum program and all my MBA products, my silver program as well. You know, a lot of people have networked like crazy to get jobs of their dreams. You know, you name the company, my students have gotten jobs there, including most recently at McKinsey, one of my students. I know McKinsey reached out to me because they're doing a background check. But it comes through doing informational meetings. Your network is your net worth. So set up tons of informational meetings. And I teach about this in the first semester of my MBA program. You can go to harounmba.com to learn more. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Shopper wrote, hi, Chris. Hey. For those of us less educated than yourself, no. Look, I feel like this is the last generation. My kids are the last generation that feel that they have to think about getting a university degree. You know, the biggest companies in the world don't require you to have a university degree. You know, IBM doesn't require it anymore. Neither does Google, neither does Facebook, neither does Apple, neither does Wells Fargo. I really believe that universities are in secular decline. And it's not fair that companies would expect you to have a degree, because a lot of times people get degrees because their parents are rich or because their parents went to that school. I mean, when I went to Columbia, and I worked my ass off to get in, I earned it humbly. But when I was there was tons of people in my class, you know, whose parents went to the school. And there's tons of people in my class whose parents were billionaires. It's not fair, and society is changing. In fact, it's a statistical fact now that fewer people are going to university now than before COVID even. We're seeing a big decline. And I think what's going to happen is many years from now, people are only going to go to university if they get into an amazing brand name, like a Harvard or Oxford, Cambridge, whatever. And I think only 50 universities are going to survive in the long run. You know, by the time I leave this wonderful planet, only 50 universities, traditional ones, will be around. And what's going to happen is at first they're going to deplete their endowments completely, and then they'll kind of do a Hail Mary and go after all alumni, ask them to save the institution, and that will work for a little while, and then eventually they'll go belly up. It just doesn't make sense to spend 4 years and $100,000 at a traditional college where you don't learn anything you can apply in the real world except for social skills, which are important, and you have 13 hours of class a week. It doesn't make any sense. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. Yeah. And that's why I bet my life on this. I'm making a difference and trying to grow my online thing. And I won't do accreditation. I won't let any government tell me what I can and cannot teach. Yeah. Plus, if I did that, I'd have to jack up the prices. I don't want to do that. Okay. All right. So you wrote here, how do you expand your network of experts in new areas of knowledge? At some point, Googling is not enough. Yeah. So what I recommend doing is in my MBA program, you can sign up today. Go to harounmba.com. Sign up for the silver program. It's $499. And there's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. You can binge watch the whole thing in 30 days and get your money back. I don't care. But in my MBA program, in one of the first classes, I teach you how to network on steroids. I teach you how to make an amazing LinkedIn profile from scratch. I teach you how to get informational meetings. It works. It works. You can just do a search on LinkedIn on anybody graduated from my program. Contact anybody. Yeah. Yeah. It works. I promise you. Yeah. Okay. And let me put it to you this way. Let's imagine, okay, it's 20 years in the future. Okay, it's 20 years in the future. You're 20 years more successful than you already are today. And somebody reaches out to you in 20 years. And they remind you of yourself. They're from the same hometown, maybe in the same organizations, whatever. And they ask you, do you have time for a quick coffee? Would you say no? Of course not. You'd say yes. So what I'm trying to impress upon you is that, if you ask and you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. You got to ask over and over and over again. Like for a date, same thing. I had to ask 8 million times. Ask and you'll receive. So ask a ton of people for informational meetings. I promise you it will work. I promise you. And if you're in my silver MBA program, what I do is every week from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Thursdays, right after this call, I do a 1-hour Zoom just with my silver MBA students. And you can always get the link in the first lecture in the silver MBA program. And I help you with your LinkedIn, anything you want. Yeah. And I'm so convinced that my system works, humbly, that there's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. I put my reputation on the line. It works, I promise you. Okay. All right. Enough with the infomercial, Chris. Okay. Next up, Starlick wrote, "Hey Chris, any thoughts on the Kanye podcast?" Yeah. I'm disgusted. I am. And I'm happy that Adidas did what they did. I wish they did it faster. So, racism or stereotyping of any kind is unacceptable. And if people accept it, racist against, one racist comment, then people are accepting all racist comments against all people. It's wrong. It's wrong. Yeah. And I'm glad the Gap and Skechers kicked Kanye out of their building yesterday. He walked in, they walked him out. Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad that this is happening. I'm glad that the media and everybody is pushing back. Everybody is pushing back globally. Don't believe me? Just go to LinkedIn. You'll see a lot of people are talking about it. Twitter's destroyed him as well. So yeah, it's unfortunate. He does have, there's no excuse. He does have mental health issues. Many of us know that. Yeah. Yeah. And the arrogance too of him saying, Adidas, what are you going to do? Cancel me? Yeah. Of course they did. Yeah. It's unacceptable. All right. And it sucks because I loved his music. Ugh. It's frustrating, man. Yeah. Yeah. If anybody else wants to talk about that or have opinions on it, let me know as well. Yeah. Yeah. Next up, hey, Hari, how are you? Hari is one of my silver MBA students. He networked using the stuff in the curriculum, got a job at Boston Consulting Group as well. Yeah, good to see you. So Hari wrote, hey, Chris, where do you look in the MBA program for calculating business projections? Yeah. So the way I have it set up is you can always go to the top of the curriculum and search for any keyword. So let me show you that really quickly. All right, so if we go to, okay, let's go here, check out my courses, whatever. So up here at the very top, you can do a search here. So you can do a search on any topic here, forecasting. And then here, depending on what MBA you signed up for, you can get access. So silver right here. So forecasting here, a bunch of different places, and you click and it'll take you directly to watch the video. So I talk a lot about that. There's tons of examples here. Yeah, that's silver. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I will admit people into Zoom in a second. Let's get a couple more people that want to join first, though. Okay. All right. All right, next up, Patricia from New Jersey wrote, I really like your approach to networking using informational meetings. It works. It works, yeah. And then Daniel wrote, hi, Chris. I'm a student of yours. Which is better, the CFA or the MBA? Can you explain the difference? Yeah. So the CFA, basically, it's a certified, I really like my hair here. It's a certified financial analyst a designation, right? And so basically what that means is you do, over 3 years, you write 3 exams, and you learn more about finance in a CFA than you do in an MBA. So if you really want to go into finance, I recommend, versus a traditional $100,000 MBA at a traditional school, I recommend doing the CFA. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is, if you guys want, you can join me for Zoom. Let me go and set this up right now. So the way to join me at Zoom is go to harounmba.com/Zoom. Here we go. All right. I got a couple people here. We got Rita and then Asif. Asif, this is the first time seeing you on the call. I hope you join us again. Okay. Okay. All right. And then we got Gary. Oh, Gary, excellent. So Gary is one of my my platinum students. He's an investment banker. Really good guy as well. And then Daniel wrote here, Chris, when is your next MBA intake for the live session? Yeah. So if you guys join the silver MBA, you get automatic acceptance with a discount. The next one is going to start, if you go here, it'll start on the 30th of January. Okay. And it's going to be every Monday and Tuesday from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. Pacific time. So again, it starts on Monday, January 30th. It lasts a year. And it's every Monday and Tuesday from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's gold and platinum. Yeah. And I'm going to have a smaller class for this one as well. Yeah. Like 70 students or so, like I have the past couple. Yeah. All right. All right. And then next up, Andras and Sarthik, thanks for doing that. Appreciate it. Andras wrote, I'm glad we have you, Chris. I'm loving business, and I see, let's say, less intelligent people showing off expensive stuff to sell cliche courses online. Any thoughts on that? Your materials are amazing. No, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there trying to rip people off with courses, and people that don't have experience in certain areas trying to teach it, whatever. I'm pure and true to you, my students. I don't have sponsors. I won't take sponsors. I've turned every sponsor down. I almost had one recently with Seeking Alpha. We didn't come to terms. But I'm true and pure to you. My reputation is online all the time. There's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. Yeah. So anyway, I teach with my heart. Yeah. Okay. All right. And let's see. Anybody on Zoom have a question, or anybody else have questions on YouTube? And then Rita, how are you? Oh, and Gary, we have Gary too. Gary, how are you? So Gary and Rita are in my MBA program.
Hello, Chris. Good morning to you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
What's your view on the new Tesla telephone, mobile?
The mobile phone, Tesla?
Yeah, Tesla's brought up. He's competing with Apple.
I didn't see that.
Please check that out.
Gary, did you see that? I didn't see that. Let me go check it out. All right, hold on a second.
No, I have not.
That must be new news. I'm usually up to date on stuff. So give me 1 second. I'm going to go and do a search on this. This is how I learn. Thank you for telling me. Tesla phone.
Apparently, the people that have direct the direct line in all the time with his own personal satellites.
Tesla phones.
You never lose a phone call.
Wow. I had no idea. And look how happy they are using it too. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it uses Starlink for global access as well. I had no idea. Is this Tesla itself?
It is Tesla.
Like, this says Comtrade Group, so maybe I have the wrong website. Let me try another one. Hold on a second. The Tesla phone. All right, let me actually get it.
Tesla mobile.
Okay, this is for a Tesla in the car. Tesla phone. All right, so you want me to do search on Tesla mobile phone?
Yes, please.
Huh. Yeah, do me a favor if you don't mind. Can you drop a link here in Zoom of from their website? And I'd love to take a look. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll try to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Cool. Where'd Gary go? Gary, where you at? So Gary went on mute. Yeah. Cool. And then, and if anybody else knows about a Tesla phone, let us know as well. Okay.
Hi, Chris. This is Hari.
Hey, Ari, how are you, man? I can't see you. I can hear you.
The thing is, there is some network issue, so I don't want to drop the.
Okay, cool. How are you? How's the new job going?
Great going, Chris. All good.
Excellent.
So all the questions that come from me, all from my new job. Hope you can sense that also.
Yeah. I can. Yeah. I remember that last week. Yeah.
Yes. I think even I haven't heard about this Tesla phone. It's new, so looking forward for that.
Yeah, I'd love to learn about it. I had no idea. Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the news.
And when you guys do Zoom, you guys don't have this issue I do. I shine. It's hot in here. I got to put this on. It's my little Picasso.
Sure.
Yeah.
I will do this when I turn on my video. Yeah.
There you go.
Not
All right, cool. Gary, how are you, man?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I do have something to say.
Sure.
What your comment about when someone asked a question with regards to whether to get a CPA or a CFA or an MBA. Oh, I was about to bust on that question because the issue is this, because I have been asked that question, and I have my opinion. My opinion aligns with your opinion. I remember I was on a board of a for-profit university. And one of the students had asked the head of a department, should they get a CFA or a CPA? And he was telling, get the CPA. He said, hey, Gary, you're a CPA. And I had to say, I have to apologize. No. If the way the student was talking about things, I said he needed to get a CFA. Because, from my opinion, as a CPA, and I did take the CFA 1, that to me, the CFA is better from the perspective that an accountant, we look at information from a historical perspective.
Right.
We're trying to attest to whether representations are reasonable. Not correct, reasonable.
Right.
But a CFA, they are looking at the number. First of all, they're taking most students without a business degree and teaching them what they need to know about accounting. That's one. So they could read financial statements. But then from the perspective of looking forward, that's the key.
Yes.
They have the ability to see the future based on utilizing finance and financial tools from that aspect. Right. So I was saying, no, go for the CFA.
Yeah.
Now the second part was, should he get a CFA or an MBA? Again, from my opinion, get the CFA because when I remember when I started in the business, my entire class, because I worked for a Wall Street bank, one of the largest in the world at the time. In fact, the address I worked at was 1 Wall Street. That was
cool.
the address.
Nice.
And I was the only one that was in this group that did not have an MBA. But what did I have? I had a CPA.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to stop, go get an MBA and all that. And in fact, a lot of people always used to ask me, "Oh, Gary, why don't you also get an MBA?" Well, why?
Yeah.
Why? Because I got a BBA. It's the same as the MBA.
Yeah.
And all I'll be doing is regurgitating what I already know.
Totally.
And all that.
You're totally right. And I did CFA level 1. And I found that, so CFA level 1 is a repeat of all the finance and accounting stuff you'll learn in MBA school anyway. But level 2 and 3 are much more sophisticated and advanced. And you're totally right. The language of business is accounting and finance. You got to learn it. Yeah.
You have to learn that.
Yeah.
But you'll learn that while studying for the CFA.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So I was totally with you. I mean, I was like ready to bust and say, "Oh, he hit it right on the head," because unfortunately, a lot of people believe in order to advance, you need to go and pay for a high-end MBA program. You know, go to Harvard, Stanford, even Columbia, and all that. And no, not really.
Just got to network and all that stuff.
It is networking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had told one of my former colleagues that I had to tell him. I said, "Listen, think about it. All you know and all that. The guy's one brilliant guys. But what is his problem? I'm going to, once again, date myself. He doesn't have a Rolodex of relationships.
I remember those things. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me ask Gary. I want to ask you. So, you're an investment banker. A lot of my students want to be investment bankers. Can you tell me what a day in the life is like for an investment banker?
Oh, okay. Day in the life of an investment banker, it depends on where you are in the system. Yeah. A lot of times you're looking for deals. And then the issue is you have the salespeople that are always trying to sell, but then you have the people who try to structure the deal and stuff like that. And sometimes that's kind of difficult, but it's hard work. But if you are on the sales side, it tends to be easier because the deal is like, this is the deal, these are the terms. Find me the buyer or whatever, or find me a company that will structure that and all that. So.
Interesting. Well, it's fascinating because 85% of all roles in finance are sales roles. And at firms like Goldman Sachs or partnerships, whatever, when you make partner, you're basically, that's a euphemism for salesperson. Same thing in a law firm. You got to bring in business, and so networking and salesmanship is the most important skill set we have in business. Yeah, and they don't. You're teach
absolutely
that.
correct.
Yeah, they don't teach that in business schools either. For some reason.
But that's why I tell people, this program is great. That's why people are like, "What are you doing there, Gary? You have all this experience and got all that stuff on the back."
Yeah.
That's wallpaper. The whole point is what you're doing is getting to the point, telling people this is really the real deal. This is what you need. This is what you have to do. What's important is relationships, and to me, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I did put a link on the thing, Chris.
We're blessed to have you. Thank you, and I appreciate that.
Did you see the link?
Oh, sure. Let me go here. I'm going to click this link here. And
Chris, what I want to ask you something, and Jerry, is a CFA better than a CPA?
From my perspective, if you want to be an accountant, then a CPA. Otherwise, from my perspective, the CFA is better if you're looking at it from the point of view of finance, even becoming a CFO, or from the perspective of dealing anything with the future. To me, the CFA is better. But the whole point is this: I also tell people that the accounting.
Hold on. Can a CFA do taxes and manage finance books and stuff like
Oh,
that?
no. That's the accountant's job. In terms of tax planning and all that, that's the accountant, because they look at stuff historically.
Yeah.
They look at what generally some of the accounting principles are. What's that?
Gary, just go back a step. You find a CPA, and you find a finance. You find a financial planner. Okay. Can a CFA be financial planner? Can a CFA be a finance advisor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything is yes, because the point the CPA has the foundational parts down of understanding business and the language of business.
Yeah.
But if you are looking for someone to manage your portfolio, and you're trying to manage the risk, and if you're going to do things like portfolio analysis and all that, that's not the CPA. Yeah. It's the CFA that does the portfolio analysis.
I would say that, like, the difference between finance and accounting is an accountant, as Gary was saying, accounting is backwards looking. Okay, it's a science. Yeah. You have to be precise. Whereas finance is more of an art. You're forward looking. You're projecting the future. In order to be successful in finance, you have to understand accounting thoroughly, right? So finance is kind of it's more encompassing. Versus if you want to work in accounting, you can focus on a track where you're just backwards looking completely, like consolidating financials, filing annual reports or whatever it might be, or filing taxes. Yeah. Finance I think it's a much tougher gig. Because you have to deal with uncertainty in the future when forecasting. Yeah.
Well, and that's the important part. It is finance is an art, and science, where it's like the accounting is more precise, because of all the business degrees. I always tell people the accounting degree is a professional degree. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's the only professional degree, because it's the only one that requires to be licensed. Mm-hmm. And that means you got to follow generally accepted accounting principles and all that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. No, it's amazing. And it looks like there's a new federal regulation that if going forward, CFOs and people that work in finance, if they misstate earnings, they will be penalized with their own salaries as well. So they'll be like personally liable.
This is what.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
Sure.
Now they have director courses new in Australia. This new thing come up because lots of people they sign documentation as directors of companies. Mm-hmm. That's what I was talking about it last week or week before last, about some directors, even though they're going to be in the company, become a director, an individual employee. Mm-hmm. Somebody will take him and put him a director in the company, and if they don't pay, even if they pay the PI cover for him, the insurance cover for him, still he can be penalized himself personally in a personal liability lawsuit. Right? Yeah. Okay. So what they're doing now, they're structuring the thing like they educate and director to be more responsibility after the constitution is directors. So that's a director. If it is a director, I'm a director of the company, blah, blah, blah. I do what I want, but he can't do what he wants because he works for his own company.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. He works for his own company, so he's not a hold responsibility. He can't say his solicitor gave him a letter of clarification, can't understand the document, but he tell him after all. He didn't explain to me, mortgage document is about 250 pages, and he read them to me and he said to me initial expression, blah, 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 So now they'll be held responsible.
Yeah, the government can, So, and for anybody out there in the webcast, if you're asked to join a board of a company, please don't join that board without talking to a lawyer first or without getting what's called director and officer, meaning D&O insurance. Because what happens is this. If you join the board of a company, you can be sued and personally liable. Okay, the investors in the company, shareholders, et cetera, can come after your personal assets unless you're indemnified and you have what's called D&O insurance, director and officer insurance. And you don't have to pay for that yourself. You can request the company get you D&O insurance as well. Yeah.
But you can find somebody who comes in, go personally for you.
Yeah.
Personal liability for you. You cannot be indemnified. You're indemnified by the company, but an individual who lost millions of dollars, he's not going to chase the company. He's going to chase you. You were the head who signed on that, who did that in that point, and that's what they're doing now. So this is why the insurance companies are running for covers.
Yeah. And the legal fees should be paid for by the company. And a lot of people that join boards, like what happens, a lot of people are CEOs for years, and they retire and they join boards. And so if you join a board of a publicly traded company, you can make $100,000 per board. And so what happens is CEOs will join a ton of boards, 5 or 10, and that's how they'll make their $500,000 to $1 million.
It's more different. It's not like Meghan Merkel, and Suits, the episode of Lawyer. It doesn't work like that. When it comes to law, it's more tougher than it's more and more tough.
Yeah. Caroline, great to see you. I love you. I love your hair. It's a new hairstyle I see there. It's awesome to see you. Everybody, Caroline is from France originally. She lives in Ontario, Canada. She loves to sail. She got married recently in Nova Scotia. And she has...
Félicitations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. It's perfect. Yeah. It's great.
Okay, I forgot to put the mic. Thank you for the intro and everything, Chris, and the hair. Actually, I got a new stylist. She's really good. And in the time I've been in Canada, I've not found any good hair stylist.
Yeah.
It's just not easy to find.
Yeah.
Anyway, and asking me how is married life today?
Yeah, how is married life today? And by the way, MBA does not stand for married but available. I just want everybody to know that. No, I'm just kidding. No, sorry.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I've been sort of lying, but since we got back from Nova Scotia, Rob really has been moving to the boat. He's been more or less, he lives on the boat, so he's very lonely.
Okay. Oh, you're living on the boat. Okay, cool.
No, Rob lives on the boat and I live at home.
Okay.
And the reason why is fixing the boat. We have a boat project,
Yeah.
and the house also has to be fixed. So I fix the house a little bit and take care of the cat. I visit him sometimes. He visits me too. So that's
cool.
It's
awesome.
interesting life.
Yeah. Do you guys go boating in the winter in Canada, or is it too cold?
No. What happened because of the winter, most boats are hauled out of the water and they stay on the harbor for the winter.
Yeah.
Few people, it's maybe, I don't know, a small percentage, maybe 2% of people lives on their boat. You can, they don't call leave aboard.
Huh.
But, so you have to put some bubbler, for the water to not freeze around your boat.
Right.
And it's an economical way to live because, Toronto is expensive.
Yeah.
But it's, it's got some downside to it because, the dock can be icy and it's, it's not super comfortable, warm, we put heater, but still it's not, it's challenging, but So.
And that way you don't pay property tax. Yeah.
Yeah, municipal taxes, right.
Yeah. That's great. Very cool.
Very smart. I would do it, if I had to. But luckily we got into the market, so we have
That's cool. That's great.
We are our pace.
And how's your CREP business going? Are you still trying to deal with private equity firms to sell it?
Well, I'm done with the season. I go to Thanksgiving, so it was a very good season. And but I'm a bit of a procrastinator, so I didn't put any ad. Or I did some research. I have friends who sold restaurants, so I asked them how they did it. Yeah. And they did it. He told me, well, he put an ad on Kijiji, and it went like this. So that's what I'm planning to do.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But my friends gonna help me for next year. So. And next year I'll be ready with my ad, and and when we made some money, I gave her 25% of the sales, so she needs some money too. She was happy with that, and
cool.
So it worked out good.
Excellent. It's great to hear. I've got a question for Gary. Gary from Mutaz, who's saying, I have a small question. Do you need a bachelor's degree in accounting to get a CPA?
Oh, that's one of those areas that really piss me off. I'll just be very. It's a touchy item. Yeah. Reason why, when I first came into accounting and I took the CPA exam, all you needed was an undergraduate degree.
Right.
However, even though I was involved with the American Institute of Certified Public AICPA, I was involved with them and was on those committees. They decided to increase the requirement for an undergraduate degree to have at least 150 hours. So you must have at least a 1-year MBA degree. on top of your undergraduate degree in order to sit in the United States. Each state has their own separate rules.
Yeah.
But all the states had agreed to increase the requirement to sit for the CPA to have at least 150 U.S. credit hours, or in this case here, a master's degree overall.
Right.
My question was always, why? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
It's not fair.
Before undergraduate who hit all the requirements, even if you had the master's degree, you had all the requirements.
Right.
They make you take 30 additional credit hours, 1 year more of education just to sit for it. So I know that's to answer. The answer, you have to have a master's degree.
Yeah. But that's
my pet peeve.
But can you do like 150 hours of community college?
Yes. Yes. And as long as you have, the way they say it, you have to have 150 hours, but you have to meet certain courses. You have had to have taken, in other words, you have to take management accounting, but then you'll have to take also cost accounting. You can't substitute. Okay. You have to take 2 years of taxes, things like that. But if you do have those credit hours on top of a bachelor's degree, then yes. In fact, I tell a lot of people when they want to do stuff, go to community college, save some money if you can.
No, definitely.
You also have to be here in Australia. Like you have to have your master. You also have to have your taxations, whole taxation accreditation in business law. It's paramount.
Yeah, well, those are the minimum requirements.
And then after you do that, you have to set up for the CPA courses. CPA courses and exams, and lots of people fall for that. That's why some people they work with another accountant or tax agent. They can stay work as a taxation agent, but they cannot be certified. You
said something that triggered something also. Depending on the state, you may have additional requirements. Like, for example, in the state of New York, I don't know about California, but I know New York, you have to work 1 year under a CPA in order to get that. Right. And even though I had done all the requirements and all that, but at the time I was in Maryland, so I took the Maryland CPA exam. They did not require it. The Texas CPA did not require it. May have changed that. But sometimes, depending on the state, then you should look at what the requirements are. The courses are all the same. In other words, business law and all that stuff. Yeah. But the issue is, you need 1 year of experience working under a CPA, or just 1 year of experience working in the financial areas. In other words, if you work for a bank, that would qualify.
Yeah.
It all depends.
Makes sense.
Even before you pass your exam to be tax agents and do group certificates and things for individual, you have to work with a tax agent for 2 years before you can get qualified for you to apply to become a tax agent. Then you have to go and do the CPA courses and set for exams. So it's not very easy. It's a very
I think every region of the world is a little bit different. It's kind of like getting the bar in different states as well. Okay, let me take a couple questions here from YouTube Live. So first up, Joe asked a question about a certain stock being a buy OPTT. I don't know, but if you want, in my MBA program, I give you all the tools to analyze stocks. And then you wrote, do you see wave power being profitable in the future, meaning green energy stocks? Yeah, I would say yes, but only if these companies can stand their own 2 feet. If there are too much in terms of government subsidies, and if those subsidies are lifted, these companies go nowhere. I do believe in investing in EV stocks, companies like Tesla, et cetera, but I want them to stand their own 2 feet without any sort of government subsidy. So do your due diligence on that, because as I mentioned earlier today, what happened in 2008 when we were within 24 hours of bank machines not working in Spain got rid of most of the solar subsidies, which destroyed the market globally. So I'd be careful of that. Next up, Brainstorm 556 wrote, "Hey, Chris, I'm a successful swing trader and I do day trading." Cool. I understand technicals and fundamentals, and I'd like to work in the hedge fund industry. What are the steps I need to make? Yeah. So number one, network like crazy in order to meet as many people as you can in the hedge fund industry. Number two, after you do your informational meetings with them, I want you to write one-page write-ups, okay? And on these one-pagers, and this worked for me and tons of other people I've advised that have gotten jobs in hedge funds. On these one-pagers, what I want you to do is I want you to break into 3 categories, which I teach in my MBA program. Fundamentals, valuation, and technical analysis, which is a distant third. And what you can do is you can write up, do these one-pagers, and after your informational meeting, you can give this one-pager to whoever you met with and follow up every couple of weeks with another idea. Okay, don't be too short-term focused though. Like, don't make it just a 1-month trade. Try to think at least 6 to 12 months out if you want to, and don't just send long ideas. Send short ideas, and every now and then send pair trade ideas as well. And what you can do is, and this is what I did when I went to interviews and networked informational meetings with hedge funds. You can in your briefcase you can have a stack of resumes, right? Your resumes. And on the other side of the resume, you can have write-ups on different companies. And depending on the person you're meeting with, you can pull out a certain write-up and say, well, here's my resume. On the other side is the one-page write-up. It works tremendously well. And before you go to these meetings with hedge funds, mutual funds, whatever it might be, you can always go, if they have over $100 million in assets, you can search the filings online to see what companies they own, so you know which companies to write about, so to speak. Yeah. But just keep following up, and even if it feels like you're screaming into the wind and you keep sending more and more one-page write-ups and they don't answer you, they will answer you eventually, okay? Just try to send one write-up a week, so to speak, okay? And when you're networking to get these meetings, make sure that you look for people who have something in common with you. Maybe they went to the same high school as you, undergrad or whatever it might be, the same hometown, same organization, etc. And when you meet with them, when you get them live, what I want you to do is I don't want you to sell yourself right away. I want you to bond before business by talking about what you have in common with them. How do you do that? Well, you can go to Twitter to find out who they follow. If they follow the New York Yankees, then you know to talk about how my Toronto Blue Jays are better than the Yankees, that sort of thing. Sorry, Gary. Gary, I'm so sorry for that. Gary, by the way, I got to ask you this. So the Yankees, they had a great year. 99 wins, amazing. Aaron Judge, he had the highest WAR, 11.5 in a year since Barry Bonds in 2002 or so. But during the playoffs, the fans booed Aaron Judge. He just filed for free agency. Do you think that's going to have an impact on whether or not he wants to come back?
It's really up to. I would say it's up to Judge. In other words, does he want to? No. Let me take that. To me, it's up to the Yankees. If they want him to stay, they will do what they have to do to make him stay. Yeah. So it's really up to him.
Yeah.
And of course, it depends on what kind of sweeteners they're going to give him.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a chance he comes to San Francisco. I mean, he was born 100 miles north of the Bay Area here. His family is here as well. The Giants, they need somebody like a Buster Posey type to basically get more fans going to the ballpark. I think the Giants are going to offer him $45 million a year for like a 10-year contract. And I think if the Yankees don't counter or something like that, I think he comes here. And Barry Bonds has been trying to get him to come here. And Phil, how are you? Good to see you. We got Phil in the call as well. Yeah.
Well, to me, my gut feeling, he's probably going to stay. And maybe that's hopeful thinking. Yeah. But, that's another one of my, quote, pet peeves. All these salaries and all that, who's going to pay for this? Yeah. The days when you can go to a ballpark today was nothing, take the family. Yeah. I remember the days of the old, the Yankee bleachers and going out into the bleachers and all that. Those days are gone. I remember 8 years ago, talked to one of my colleagues. They were in New York and said, we went to see the Yankees at their new stadium and so we got standing room only seats. Yeah. I said, well, how much did it cost you? I didn't have to see, stand up. Yeah. It just cost, what do you say? $50? I said, $50 to stand up for the entire game?
It's crazy. It's nutty. And the new Yankee Stadium is the same as the old, except it's more expensive. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Let me go just because I got to wrap this up in a minute, and then we're going to do the MBA, the silver MBA call, so you guys can stay on. But let me go to Phil, and then I'll go to Hari, who's had his hand up for a while. Phil, how are you, man? It's good to see you. It looks like you lost weight. It looks like you lost weight, man. You look good.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Or?
Yeah, perfect. It's great to see you.
Yeah. COVID did a number on me.
To hear that.
About this time last year is when I got it.
Yeah.
And I was sick. I was sick for about 2 weeks, and then I went to the hospital and stayed there for like a week and a half. And then I was off of work for about 4 months.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
At home. So I'm a lot better now.
Yeah.
Much better now, but there's still some lingering effects.
Yeah.
And I still have to. I haven't finished the platinum course. I still have to. I'm still working through that. So
so you're grandfathered in. Don't worry, you can start again next year if you want, or. But it's good to see you, man. And I'm used to talking to you at our 101s with that orange background at the company. Was it Raytheon? Or starts with R. Rockwell. Damn it, ROK. That's right. I always screw it up. Not RTNs, ROK. Okay. And are you still
same industry, but yeah.
Okay. Are you still with Rockwell?
I'm still there. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I'm working from home today, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's good to see you, man. You look great. I'm glad that you're feeling better, but this COVID stuff is no walk in the park. I had complications this summer as well with a bunch of issues. I got over it finally, but it's crazy. And then I went to get my booster shot this past Saturday at Walgreens, the Pfizer one. Yeah. And I asked the nurse a bunch of questions. I said, "What are the side effects?" She said, "We don't know." and I said, "Well, will I feel back to normal in a couple of days?" "We don't know." And then I said, "Well, when do I get my next booster shot?" She said, "We don't know." And so it's kind of crazy. Like, this stuff is not FDA approved and all that stuff. Okay. All right. So let me go to Hari quickly, and then everybody stay on here because I got to end this call, and then we're going to go to my MBA office hours one as well. Hari, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi, Chris.
Hey, man.
Chris, my doubt is that when we have our competitors' data, it could be easy for us to analyze the market. For instance, in India especially, the bakery market is not that public in nature. There is no big giants in bakery market.
Right.
When I have planned to start up a business, I find it very difficult to gather such information. So, like, how to do market analysis for such cases?
Yeah, it's so what I would recommend doing. I'm happy to talk about this in more detail in a couple of minutes during the silver MBA office hours. But I would go to E31 through E35. That's Entrepreneurship Semester 3 in the MBA program. Entrepreneurship Semester 3, Class 1 through Class 5, and I do the Venture Capital Boot Camp then, and I teach you how to analyze private companies as well, not just public. Now, there are publicly traded bakery companies, for example, around the world. What you can do is you can go and download their financials on whatever markets they're in, even if they're small cap ones, they're out there. And you can look at the historical financials that might help you in terms of understanding same-store sales growth, et cetera, in the retail sector. Yeah, cool. All right, cool. So
I'll continue our questions.
Awesome. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Zoom on mute here. Everybody on Zoom, stay on because you guys are all my MBA program. I'll be with you guys in a couple of minutes. And then we'll do office hours for MBA students. But for everybody else on the call, if you have questions, please save them and ask me next week. God bless you. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy. And I'll see you next week and every single week. And like I do, I always end this weekly webcast with a video that I licensed from the Silicon Valley Historical Association that is life-changing. Short interview with Steve Jobs here. Thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.